What is going on, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to another edition of On the Road to Victory. I am your host, Jimmy Smith, and I hope you're all having yourselves a great week. It has been one hell of a long one for me, but I appreciate all of you that have been reaching out, all of the prayers, the good vibes, everything you're sending. Big shout out to all the people that bought the merchandise and sending me pictures and videos. I'm going to be making a post about that. Truly cannot thank you all enough for all of that support all over the place. You guys are truly awesome. I appreciate the hell out of you. Appreciate you bearing with me as well, getting through this free agent series, and then we're going to be on to the draft. So trying to work our way through it. We got through the offense. Hopefully you were able to check out each position: quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, and offensive line, every free agent, what the Eagles have going on at each position. Now we're going to do the same with the defense, ladies and gentlemen. So let's jump right into it. Appreciate you taking the time here. If you guys have any thoughts, love to hear your comments down below, any questions, whatever it may be. Appreciate you hitting that like button, subscribing. But let's jump right into this, baby. We're talking about the defensive line today, the interior D-line. We'll explain that a little bit here. But one thing I like to talk about before these shows is, well, what the Eagles have in ammo, as we like to call it, for this sicko season. So the Eagles offseason here, you can see lots of ammo here. So you've got 8 picks the next couple of years. You've got over $27 million in cap space right now. You know the Eagles can create up to 30, 40 million more in cap space. Showed you how you could do that over a couple months ago now. So be prepared. Howie's about to start restructuring, extending, doing that where we talked about all those players that it's going to happen to. So go check that out if you're wondering who is about to get restructured, extended, all that stuff. But right now, we're looking at who the Eagles could add in the obviously the free agent period. You're a fan of any other team, you could be watching this because I've got the full list here. But at the end, I will give you my top 10 fits for the Eagles at defensive line. Now, let's take a look at what they've got going on here before we talk about, where we should go. Now, in the draft, I'm not so sure. You've spent a lot of capital, and you always will. It begins in the trenches. So offensive, defensive line, always going to be spending money there. So I'm okay with it. Spending draft picks there, I'm okay with it. But I think this year a little bit more on the spending money side where you're looking at free agency because, well, let's take a look at the interior D-line for the Eagles. So you've got Jalen Carter, you've got Jordan Davis, Milton Williams, and then Marlon Tuipulotu and Moro Ojomo there. Noah Ellis and Thomas Booker were reserve future signings, so they'll be here competing this summer. And then Fletcher Cox is a free agent. We shall see if, he retires, if he stays in the NFL and goes elsewhere, or if he wants to come back to the Eagles. And I think if he does, it would have to be, for a team-friendly deal. So, hey, we'll talk about that in a second, but you can see what the Eagles have going on. Now, as we go through the D-line, the edge rushers, the linebackers, I'm going to show you this graphic because we're going to get people understanding this. There's just always so much confusion about who plays where. And maybe this is why the media and content creators are always so pissed off because they have no idea what the hell's going on. So let's take a look here. Hopefully this helps, but you can see the defensive line. These guys are most of the time you're thinking of defensive tackle, but they could be your nose tackle. They could be a defensive end when you're in those odd fronts. So you've got guys like Carter, Davis, Williams, Tuipulotu, and Ojomo that we're talking about here tonight, but the edge rushers. Now, people get these confused for defensive ends or outside linebackers. They're both. They're not stacked linebackers, though. They're not defensive tackles. That's not what they are. They will be defensive ends in even fronts. They'll be outside linebackers and odd fronts. We talk about this. Go check out that defensive video breaking it all down. But you can see Reddick, Sweat, Smith, Johnson, those are your edge rushers. Then your actual off-ball stack linebackers are Dean and Van Sumeren. So we'll get into those positions, but I want to show this each time just to get people understanding what we're talking about. And right now, we're talking about those big boys, the interior. So we're going to keep trying to get people on board with, how this defense works. The 4th year in a row of running a multiple scheme defense, but we're changing defense. And we got to get rid of Reddick because he doesn't fit what we've been doing and why we added him over 3 years ago. So too funny to me. But let's take a look at the free agents here, ladies and gentlemen. And you've got some big names out here, but we'll start it off first with the exclusive rights, guys. The 2 years or under. So they either sign that the 2 years or under minimum contract there if the team tenders them. If not, they just don't play for another team. Now, the team doesn't have to tender them, so they could become unrestricted free agents. But that's a way for the teams to keep homegrown talent that most of the time undrafted, let go of by another team, but less than 2 accrued seasons, no more than that. So these are the 3-year guys, the restricted. So you could place 3 tenders on them if they were drafted somewhere. You could put, you match the draft pick and they have to give you whatever draft pick that is. You could put a first, a second round tender on them. You could do all kinds of things. And then that team has to give you a pick as well as sign them. So, this helps teams keep some of these younger players. Again, the 3 years. Now you're talking 4 years or more. These are the veteran players. That's unrestricted. Let's get into that. And you've got some big names here, man. Chris Jones, Christian Wilkins. You've got Stewart, Reeder. List goes on. Fletch in there. Daylon Jones, Noddy, Autry. There's a lot of talented guys here. And, for the Eagles, I feel that, looking for veteran help. You got a lot of young guys. I don't think you need to really look in the draft. If somebody's available, go ahead and take them if you really like them. I'm not against it. I'm just saying you could be looking into free agency here because you don't necessarily have to get younger there. So you see there's quite a list here, but I've got a couple more pages of this list. So we've got even more unrestricted free agents, and these are more not your starters. The other page, more so your starters. These guys, some starting experience in here, some guys kind of getting older, some guys falling off a little bit, but a lot of very talented names. And picking a top 10 was, difficult, but I want to keep it to 10 for this defense. I want to keep the importance here, but if I have to go bigger, I will here. But there is one more damn page of this, and you can see what I mean. Lots of free agents here that the Eagles could be looking at, or whoever the hell your team is. But look, whether you're looking for starting caliber, depth piece, whether that, be a DT2, DT3, DT6, whatever it may be, you've got lots of talent here. Now, for me, I don't think that you're going after guys like Chris Jones. I know that's going to upset a lot of people, how he failed. He didn't sign an all-pro at every position. That's just not how it works. This is not Madden. So for me, you've got Carter, you've got Davis. You have spent capital there, and that is, I feel very comfortable. I don't know why people are sleeping on them, but that's perfectly fine with me. I hope the rest of the NFL keeps sleeping on them. Real fans, people that know football, know exactly what the Eagles have here in Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter. And Milton Williams, too. Don't get me wrong. I'd love to see him extended this year going into his final year of his contract. But go check out that video talking about all those things that, restructure, extending 15 ways the Eagles can create cap space. It'll be under the playlist. Show me the money. But let's get into now the top 10 fits for the Philadelphia Eagles. You saw all of them, so you can give me your top 10, top 5, top 3, top 25, top 23, whatever the hell is on your mind. I'd love to hear it, but let's jump right into this. Get in the top 10 guys that I think Howie should be looking after him. There's going to be some guys that you've heard of, some guys you probably haven't, but I'm looking at, we're already stacked at D-tackle. That was one of the positions. We looked at positions of strength. I had them ranked. That's one of the strongest positions we have, even if Fletcher walks. But let's talk about it. So at number 10, we got ourselves Terry Tartt. Tartt, but I like to call him Terry. And you guys know that joke. But anyways, old Tyre Tartt here, born in West Philadelphia, baby. So I guess I could have said West Philadelphia, born and raised on the playground. All right. So 6'2", 304, 27 years old. This will be his 5th season. Now, he was on the Titans last year as well, but then got moved to the Texans out of Florida International. And again, this dude is from Philly, and we're looking for somebody that can help us out. He can play that nose tackle. He can go from that 0 technique to about the 3, maybe even a little 4-eye. But this kid, I think he's got some talent. He started 9 games. Now, when you're looking at an interior D lineman, it's kind of hard to gauge, looking at stats here. But this dude, I think, very young, 27 years old, and he's somebody you could add to compete with Marlon Tuipulotu, Noah Ellis. So looking at a back-end guy, this dude is not starting. I'm talking about depth here. I feel very comfortable with what we have as starters, so you can see kind of where I'm looking. Now, this guy up next at number 9 has got some experience here. And, Nick Williams is somebody, obviously, he's a little bit older there, 34 years old, but I don't give a damn. He started 6 games last year, and this is one of those versatile pieces we talk about that can line up all over. And, this is something important to Vic Fangio's defense. You need those guys that can line up all over in different techniques in those even and odd fronts, can be that D tackle, can be that D end in the odd fronts, and that is Nick Williams. So for me, he's still got some left in the tank, and I think you could get him for, a pretty cheap price. And we saw that year he went to the Giants. I remember talking about him then. He's just somebody that if Fletch doesn't come back, you get a veteran guy that comes in here, can play those multiple positions and help some of these younger guys continue to grow and develop. So that's what I'm looking at. And I like Nick Williams, so would not be against it. Now up next, Brent Urban. And this is another guy, 32 years old, is going to be his 11th season out of Virginia, former 4th round pick, but 6'7", 309 pounds. Holy hell. And again, this is one of those versatile pieces. And Brent Urban, man, you really can line him up all over the place, dude. And I think that he is one of those fun toys that Vic Fangio could play with on that line that could really dominate, all across, man. Now, I don't necessarily want him as that 0-1 technique, but I would like to see him, with that versatility being used on the Eagles. I think would be fantastic. Now, he's had 3 starts, and he's played in that multiple scheme defense, Mike McDonald over there with the Ravens. And I think that this is somebody, I'm not sure if he crossed paths with Fangio, 900 years ago there with Baltimore, but I think that he would fit what we are trying to do here. Now, up at number 7, I've got Mario Edwards. And this is a guy that, some time with Vic, some time you can see with Clint Hurt. So I think, at the age of 30, you can get what I'm looking at here, some depth piece guys that aren't going to cost you a lot. And, 1 start last year, but again, now Mario Edwards is a 2nd round pick who never really panned out to what he was supposed to be. 6'3", 280. So you wouldn't think, but he's a versatile piece. Again, I'm not, this is one of those guys I'm not really using interior too much when it comes to the 1 technique, anything like that. But it has been fun to watch him, develop his skill set to work with what he's got. And I think that, he's not an edge rusher. And this is something had to be learned. Oakland tried to do that. And, he's a guy with that versatility you talk about that plays that defensive end in the odd front, can play D tackle, more of that pass rushing kind of guy. So I like Mario Edwards, and I think that, I would be more than okay adding him to the Eagles. Now, up at number 6, I kind of wanted to put him higher just because of fit. It's not about who's the best, right? So I kind of struggled here, but I like Rayquan Davis. And, he started 7 games last year, only has a half sack, 9 pressure, 6 quarterback hits there. But again, these are stats for a defensive tackle. Take it with a grain of salt, but he's going into his 5th year. He's only 26 years old, out of Alabama. Vic Fangio had him there in Miami last year. So a former 2nd round pick for a reason. This dude's got talent. And because of the fact that he hasn't really panned out, maybe you could get him for a cheap price, and then you actually have some depth for Jordan Davis beyond Noah Ellis and trying to use Tuipulotu as a nose tackle. That's just not realistic. So you're looking at a monster, 6'7", 325 effing pounds. Oh my God. So consider him in my top 3, really, because I like this kid a lot. There are some better options here, but I'm a big fan of Rayquan Davis, and I think he would be a perfect fit for Vic Fangio's defense in the Philadelphia Eagles. Now let's get into the top 5. Let me know how you feel about those first 5. You agree, you don't like them, whatever is on your mind. But at number 5, I've got Grover Stewart here from the Indianapolis Colts, and he spent all 7 of his seasons with the Colts out of Albany State, a former 4th round pick, 6'4", 314 pounds. And I am a fan of Grover Stewart. I think he is one of the most underrated defensive tackles in the game. And, I've mentioned him before as a trade candidate. This is something, I'm high on, getting a veteran piece, and Fletcher Cox was that guy. So this is, obviously dependent on what he wants to do and if we bring him back. But if not, I'm all about adding someone like a Grover Stewart. Still think he's doing really well going into his 8th season. Still think he's got a lot left in the tank, and I would be all about it. Now at number 4, this guy actually at one point for me was number 1. That's how much I change these things. But I like Daylon Jones a lot. 6'4", 320 pounds. You're talking about those big boys that can move all over, man. This is like a Jalen Carter, can go all the way from the 0 to the 4-eye technique. This is somebody that I think would be a perfect death piece. 4th-round pick out of Penn State back in 2014. So this is going to be his 11th season. Played for the Titans, the Panthers before, but he's still doing his thing. And I thought he looked good on the Bills last year. Only 7 starts, so had a little injury problem there. And you're going to have that with some of these older players. I'm not looking to sign something crazy, but I think you could get him at a decent price because of his age and because of that injury. So for me, Rayquan Jones, got him on the list, had him at 1, but now he's not even in the top 3. Now let's jump into this top 3. And at number 3, we've got Shelby Harris. And this is a guy familiar with Vic Fangio, familiar with Clint Hurt. So you're going to be hearing other people randomly calling these guys out because they all of a sudden figured this out. But you've got 6'2", 288 Shelby Harris, who we talk about that versatility. You've noticed it's either the big monster that is versatile or the little guy that can play the D tackle and that defensive end in the odd fronts. And that is something that Shelby Harris can do and do well. And he'll be going into his 11th season and out of Illinois State, former 7th-round pick. I still think he's got a lot left in the tank. And, at 32, not to say that like he's got a lot left in the tank to be a starter. I'm saying to be that depth piece for the Eagles to mix in with Milton Williams, obviously Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter there. Oh, my Lord, I would be all for it. And again, understanding Vic Fangio's system would be a great help to some of these younger guys. And up next, Danico Autry moved high on my list. I had him like at number 5 at one point. But look, don't watch stats. That's why I had him lower. But he does have an 11 and a half sacks last year. And that is good. Okay. So as much as you say, you can't watch him, you still, take it with a grain of salt, but he did well. 14 starts and he had 24 pressures, 50 tackles, 17 quarterback hits, 24 pressures in there. And I think, 12 tackles for a loss. That's pretty damn good. Undrafted back in 2014 out of Mississippi State. And he's played for the Colts and the Raiders. Be his 11th season. He is 33 years old as well, but this is one of those versatile pieces, man. And obviously he's not one of those 300-pounders, and obviously I threw those guys in there too. I'd like to see a little of both, but Danico Autry, man, you add an old vet like him and then a young guy like a Rayquan Davis or a Shelby Harris and Rayquan Davis, I am all about it. So I got Danico Autry at number 2, but at number 1 here, man, why not just bring back Fletcher Cox? And I know a lot of people feel a certain way. Get rid of him. He's too old. It's going to be his 13th season out of Mississippi State. Man, a 1st-round pick back in 2012. Oh, my Lord. 6'4", 310. We know this beast is still rocking. 5 sacks last year, 28 pressures, 33 tackles, 3 tackles for a loss, a forced fumble recovery, 2 passes deflected. So this dude, he's still keeping it real. And I said it earlier in the show, but I think this all depends on taking that team-friendly deal. So that, to me, is more important than going out, signing one of those top-name guys out there. I think just bring back Fletcher Cox and allow him to take on that role that Brandon Graham did, where he takes the back seat, allows the young guys, because he led defensive tackles last year, the interior D lineman for the Eagles, in snaps. So allow Carter and Davis to take over, even Milton Williams in front of them. I think would be a smart move, but you could bring him back. Now, don't get me wrong. If he doesn't come back, I'm all about adding a Shelby Harris, Rayquan Davis, all those guys I mentioned, Rayquan Jones, Danico Autry. So a lot of talent there, but I feel very comfortable what we already have. So there's no dire need at D tackle. Edge rusher tomorrow or the next day, whenever the hell I get it out. Going to be a busy day at work. But this weekend, getting the edge rushers out here, we're going to talk about all of those guys because that's very important. I think the Eagles are going to be looking there in the draft and free agency. So I'll see you then. But that's all I've got for tonight. If you got anything from this, do me a favor, hit that like button. Let me know who your top 10 are, your top 5, top 3, whatever it may be. I want to hear it. But hope you're all having yourselves a great week. Hope you're ready for the weekend tomorrow. Let's go. But have yourselves a good one. Appreciate you taking the time. Again, would love to hear from you down below. Always down to talk some birds. But until next time, I am Jimmy Smith, and this is On the Road to Victory. You all have yourselves a great night. Stay safe out there. And as always, say it with me now. Go Birds!